It's quite difficult to come out of a movie and judge it as a full beginning to end experience. We're naturally more inclined to remember key moments or sequences, and more often than not, it's these bits that inform our opinion of the movie overall. While that doesn't necessarily make these standout moments bad, it does mean that the rest of the movie's runtime can go without the high praise it might deserve. Now, we're all guilty of this, and more than likely, you too define one of the following movies by their one standout aspect. Whether that's a single scene or a laughably bad performance, just don't forget how good the rest of it is. I'm Jess from What Culture, and here are 10 movies much better than the one thing you remember them for. Number 10. Split. As for what you remember this one for, I'm betting it's the Unbreakable twist. The fact that M. Night Shyamalan's Split is a sequel to his 2000 superhero drama Unbreakable is a completely disposable fact when you assess the movie as a whole, and yet it's basically the one thing people take away from it. The closing scene featuring Bruce Willis returning to play his Unbreakable character David Dunn, which is very cool, could be removed entirely and it wouldn't change a thing. All it does is make people who are familiar with Unbreakable excited about the future of the franchise, and leaves rookies scratching their heads. Either way, the other 99% of Split ends up being forgotten, but it deserves a heck of a lot of praise. Here, Shyamalan proves that his earlier films weren't flukes, demonstrating his knack for blending spooky thrills with relatable characters who are developed in interesting ways. Plus, James McAvoy turns in a performance that wouldn't have looked out of place on the Best Actor Oscar nominations list. He's that good. By its very nature, this final twist does make the rest of the movie feel slightly less notable. It makes you wonder if Split would have been better served with subtle sequel hints peppered throughout, rather than having Bruce Willis's cameo define the whole experience for many. Number 9. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. What you likely remember this one for is Tom Cruise scaling the Burj Khalifa. You could probably put any of the recent Mission Impossible movies on this list, and all for the exact same reason. But 2011's Ghost Protocol stands out above Rogue Nation and Fallout because it marked a turning point for the franchise, one where the centerpiece of each movie became one thing, and one thing only: Tom Cruise's latest crazy stunt. The actor scaling the dizzying heights of the Burj Khalifa is still his most impressive work in that regard, but this entire sequence completely overshadows everything else the rest of the movie does brilliantly, and for many people, this is all they'll remember from it. But even when you move this scene to the side, MI4 is just plain awesome. The other Mission movies are quite dark in tone, especially lately, but this fourth entry is lighthearted, snappy, and the most easily enjoyable of the lot. Its action is amazing throughout, from the hilarious prison break to the bone-crunching car park sequence. It's also got the best team dynamic in the series, with everyone from Simon Pegg to Jeremy Renner to Paula Patton feeling like a truly indispensable part of the mission. Simply put, it's one of the finest action movies of the 2010s. The Burj is just the icing on the cake. Number 8. American History X. What you remember it for: the curb stomp. American History X is a hard movie to watch, an inherent factor of its decision to explore subject matter that will make any decent person feel uncomfortable. The scene that represents this most is the movie's infamous curb stomp, which sees Derek Vineyard brutally murder a thief by having him place his mouth around a curb before stomping on the back of his head. The act itself is horrifying enough, but Derek's look of pride and satisfaction makes an already sadistic scene downright haunting. The stomp has spawned countless online think pieces and breakdowns over the years, and for many, memories of American History X are nothing but violent and bleak, which completely undermines the fact that the second half of the film is a redemption story. After getting out of prison for committing this murder, Derek is a different man and attempts to teach his brother why supporting the neo-Nazi movement is wrong. This doesn't excuse Derek of his past mistakes, but it's heartwarming to see that a person as lost as he was is capable of change. The latter half of the movie is its strongest because of this, but the prolific nature of the curb stomp has resulted in this depth and superb character development being lost. Number 7. X-Men: Days of Future Past. What you remember it for: Quicksilver. If there's one X-Men movie that doesn't get the credit it deserves, it's Days of Future Past. The second movie featuring the prequel cast is the best of their trilogy, but it feels like its brilliance has been swallowed up and overshadowed by the more prominent likes of the MCU and follow-up X-Men Apocalypse's poor reception. Consequently, there's only one scene that's truly left a lasting impression, thanks to a combination of its brilliance and the way it was able to permeate mainstream media around the time the movie came out, and that's Quicksilver Quicksilver's kitchen dash. While breaking Magneto out of plastic prison, the team arrives at a kitchen reminiscent of that bit from Jurassic Park. Cornered by goons, Quicksilver sprints into action and we're transported to a mesmerizing slow-mo experience, replicating his point of view. It's a fantastic scene, but the movie's complex time travel plot, interaction between old and new cast members, and amazing use of its 70s setting and politics are what makes it truly great. Without one of these components, the whole thing would fall apart, but without Quicksilver, there'd just be one less awesome scene. Number 6. Tropic Thunder. What you remember it for? Tom Cruise dancing and Robert Downey Jr. doing blackface. When it comes to Tropic Thunder, it's a direct 50-50 split between what people remember the most: Tom Cruise's bonkers movie producer Les Grossman or Robert Downey Jr.'s eccentric actor Kirk Lazarus doing blackface until the DVD commentary. Both are hilarious in their roles, with Cruise playing so far against type that it's almost unbelievable to watch, and Downey earning an Academy Award nod for his work. They're both flamboyant, larger-than-life characters, so it's no surprise that they become Tropic Thunder's mascots. And while they do deliver many of its standout comic moments, they're not the sole reasons the movie works so well. Ben Stiller's direction is fantastic, with the funny man somehow managing to find the humor in a blood and guts-filled satire of older Vietnam War films. Jack Black, Matthew McConaughey, and Stiller also turn in memorable performances, and there are tons of hilarious gags, like the opening riff on Apocalypse Now's famous explosion and the whole "I killed a panda" section. And that's even without mentioning some of the fake trailers seen throughout the movie. I mean, who doesn't want to see Scorcher 6 global meltdown? Number 5. Predator. What you remember it for? Get to the chopper! As a result of its immense memeability, everyone has heard Arnie's famous line, but casual movie watchers won't be aware that it's taken from Predator. This makes the moment just another funny quote embedded in the endless amounts of Arnie quotes circulating YouTube, and it's easy to forget that the movie itself, and this whole scene, is anything but funny. Predator is a great action movie, a solid thriller, and a chilling horror all at once. Of course, it contains the quotable lines, colorful characters, and oiled up muscles synonymous with other 80s actioners, and most Schwarzenegger flicks, but it's also genuinely terrifying, with many bloody deaths and a raw feeling of desperation that's palpable each time our heroes encounter the titular hunter. And while "get to the chopper" is indeed a great line, let's not forget "I ain't got time to bleed, you are one ugly motherfucker," and the criminally overlooked "this stuff will make you a goddamn sexual tyrannosaurus, just like me." Number 4. Basic Instinct. What you remember it for? Sharon Stone uncrossing her legs. A lot of the fondness aimed at 1992's Basic Instinct more or less boils down to people remembering the sex appeal of star Sharon Stone. The scene where Stone's Catherine Trammell exposes herself during an interrogation has taken on a life of its own, with parodies and references aplenty, most recently in Deadpool 2. Indeed, you don't even have to have seen the movie to know where it comes from. But being known as that movie where Sharon Stone flashes her vagina does the incredibly suspenseful, provocative Basic Instinct a disservice. Michael Douglas is at his best. Verhoeven's Hitchcockian direction is rock solid and impressive considering he's more famous for his action work, and the plot unfolds at a rapid pace that keeps the carnal intrigue coming. There's so much to enjoy here. Over time, Basic Instinct has become known as a sexy movie because of this one scene, but it really isn't. It's about how a manipulative woman uses sex as a weapon, and it builds a strong thriller around that conceit. It's more horrifying than anything. Number 3. Furious 7. What you remember it for? The drama surrounding Paul Walker's death. After Paul Walker tragically passed away in November 2013, the production of Furious 7, which was midway through shooting at the time, was delayed indefinitely while the filmmakers reworked the story. Being such a high-profile Hollywood blockbuster, the media attention this incident drew was absolutely insane, and the movie was put under immense scrutiny right the way up till its 2015 release date. Now, for many fans, both hardcore and casual, Furious 7 is just that fast movie with the CGI Paul Walker and the Wiz Khalifa song. But the fact is that Walker's goodbye is just one scene, the final one, in a 2-hour movie. Furious 7 is fantastic up until this point, but because the touching tribute to the late actor was so well done, the skill with which the rest of Furious 7 was crafted has been forgotten amidst the tragedy of his death. James Wan's action scenes are the cleanest and most stylish in the series. The ever-reliable Dwayne Johnson delivers a commanding, likable performance that instantly instantly livens up any scene he's in. Villain Deckard Shaw is the franchise's best, and the introduction of Kurt Russell adds a much-needed touch of class to the formula. Furious 7 would be the best in the series even if Walker was still with us, and he'd rightfully be proud of the finished product. Number 2. Bram Stoker's Dracula. What you remember it for? Keanu Reeves' bad acting. Keanu Reeves has never been the greatest of actors, and because of this, he's wisely started to choose roles that don't require a whole lot of range. I'm looking at you, John Wick. But back in the early 90s, when he was much younger, he clearly didn't possess this sensibility, which resulted in his really not very good performance in Bram Stoker's Dracula, which was subject to a monster critical drubbing. Over time, thanks to countless YouTube montages, Reeves' growing reputation as a wooden lead, and just how funny some of his acting is, this performance has given the film an undesirable notoriety, with great turns from Gary Oldman and Anthony Hopkins, as well as some truly eerie set design and a score that will creep right under your skin, being buried by Reeves' terrible British accent and try-hard acting. Sadly, that's just how things work in the movie world. You can do 99 things right but do one thing wrong, and that's all people will remember. Bram Stoker's Dracula isn't director Francis Ford Coppola's best work, but it's better than the poor reputation Reeves has given it. Number 1. KINGSMAN: The Secret Service. What you remember it for? The church fight scene. Bring KINGSMAN: The Secret Service up in conversation, and it's almost a guarantee that the first scene someone will mention is the bloody church fight, where Colin Firth's Harry Hart is pitted against dozens and dozens of members of a hate group. And there's a good reason for that. It's absolutely freaking amazing, with hidden edits providing the illusion that it was shot in one continuous motion, a kick-ass soundtrack, and some wince-inducing gore effects. There isn't a single thing to dislike here, but it does do the rest of the movie a disservice not to look back on everything else it does so superbly. KINGSMAN's story of a troubled council estate delinquent trying to find meaning in his life is surprisingly affecting. The scenes with his abusive stepfather are hard to watch, and when he loses Harry, the man he feels a father-like connection with, you'll feel like a stake has gone through your heart. The movie also cheekily explores class politics, with the rich staying safe in a secure bunker, while the rest of the common folk are left to murder each other on the streets, all because of basic tools like smartphones and internet. All that emotion and nuance is lost when the movie is reduced to this one fight scene. KINGSMAN is a brilliant movie all round, and it's a lot cleverer than people usually remember it is. And that is our list. Do let me know down in that comment section if you can think of any other movies that are way better than the one thing they're remembered for. As always, I've been Jess from What Culture. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you're liking, come say hi to me on my Twitter account where I'm at Jess McDowell, but make sure you stay tuned to us here for plenty more great content.